Donald Trump has given his farewell address. But is this goodbye or au revoir?
4 years ago, I came to Washington as the only true outsider ever to win the presidency.
It's time now for those true outsiders. Billionaire businessmen.
I had not spent my career as a politician, but as a builder looking at open skylines and imagining infinite possibilities. I ran for president because I knew there were towering new summits for America.
He's going for a building analogy. That's where he's setting it up, like that his background was in construction and building, and that what we build as politicians, as leaders, is visions for people to aspire to and to inhabit. But a different narrative, looking back on Trump's inauguration and his ascent to power, was that, firstly, it seemed absolutely mental, didn't it? Don't you remember, like, leading up to you going, no, come on, he ain't going to be president. But, like, did you ever watch any of them documentaries on Trump where it's like it shows him in the primaries up against other Republican candidates, like on Fox News? That dude's funny. In a way, with Donald Trump, we've been laying the pathway for a president like Trump for a long, long time. When you look at figures like Reagan, the sort of showbiz, and the JFK kind of like glamour, even Bush and his sort of shucks cool like mentality. In fact, the office of president, as soon as you don't say let's have some sort of Poindexter brain box in the role that's just really good at facts and figures, or as you know, a moral and ethical genius, then you do leave it open to a sort of polemical superstar like Donald Trump, a man who's more media than politics. This is the age that we have created. This is the president we've got. It's been a giddy and extraordinary ride. What's going to be interesting now is the transition to a new era in American politics, if indeed that's what it represents.
I knew the potential for our nation was boundless as long as we put America first.
That's interesting, isn't it? It ain't boundless. I mean, this idea of boundlessness is what's causing problems. There are real clear bounds. The bounds are there's this many resources, there's this many people, there's this much inequality, there's this much polarized opinion. It's not boundless. Aspects of Trump, I think, could have been fascinating. Like, there's one thing we can all agree on. Institutionalized centrist politics is not going to deliver the answer for most ordinary people. The establishment has too much power. Big business has too much power. The financial industry has too much power. Lobbyists in general have too much power. The media, by and large, huge sections, swathes of it, which cannot be trusted, and that depends sort of on how you situate yourself amidst this maelstrom of data. This is the kind of thing that could really have made a difference. A president that's like, I ain't Republican, I ain't Democrat. The problem is he's all individualism and all capitalism. I don't doubt, if you're someone that likes Trump, that your feelings are legitimate, both the rage and the attraction to someone who is plainly different from other politicians.
So I left behind my former life and stepped into a very difficult arena.
I like the idea of him, dun, 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 like a bindle on his back, or like the Hulk or something. Goodbye, family. Goodbye, friends. No, actually, you come because I have jobs.
But an arena, nevertheless, with all sorts of potential, if properly done.
Properly done. He was a fiasco, wasn't he? He'd done so many mad things, threatened stuff, always on the internet saying crazy shit. Like, properly, that's not the adjective to start applying to that skullduggery.
America had given me so much, and I wanted to give something back.
I'm gonna give something back. It's fucking mayhem.
Together with millions of hard-working patriots across this land.
He's tagging the name Patriots there. Patriots, copyright. Because, this may not be goodbye to Donald Trump. This might just be goodbye to this incarnation of Donald Trump. A Donald Trump now that's tasted real power. A Donald Trump that's seen the potency of the message of populism. Populism, though, can only succeed in an environment where the messaging of globalism is legitimized by government policy and by observable economic movement, i.e., if you know that real power is transcendent of democracy, then your mind is open to, well, who is powerful then? If nothing bloody changes, whether it's Bush or Clinton or other Bush or other Clinton, then what the hell is the point in this? We might as well have some bloody lunatic. Populism, it shouldn't be a dirty word. Populism simply means You see you, the population, we're going to put you first. And these interests of these marginal, smaller, let's call them what they are, elites, that's not going to be a high priority. They're going to be taxed fairly. They're going to see their activity scrutinised. We're going to ensure that the media is responsible. Like, the only way you can prevent Trump is by addressing the conditions that create him, not by waiting for Trump and then going, oh, I don't like the colour of him, his hair's stupid. Although, let's face it, we've all done our fair share of that.
We built the greatest political movement in the history of our country. We also built the greatest economy in the history of the world.
You can't just say things like the greatest economy in the history of the world, because like, when it comes to all this grandstanding and hyperbole, you've got to stand up against actual facts. I mean, look, we've got some facts here. I've got facts, but I'm saying, there was a lot of poverty, a lot of people on welfare, a lot of people doing great lumps of prison time. It wasn't some giddy golden age. Don't you sometimes think when you're watching like the Dow Jones or some financial report, look, everyone's still poor. Yeah, but look, it's gone up 10 points. I can't eat 10 points.
It was about America first because we all wanted to make America great again.
If that's what you wanted, why didn't you mention it? I never heard you going on and on about it and putting it on a hat instead of having some actual policies. Look, let's face it, whether it's America, England, France or Papua New Guinea, countries are made up. They're not real. You can't make them great again, but particularly if words like, great are not properly quantified and analysed. A country is a faith-based system. A state is a faith-based system. Some people laugh in your face if you tell them you believe in God, but then they're patriotic in some way or think that there's a sanctity around democratic institutions or, and we'll do a video about this, have an inauguration, which is basically a religious ceremony to anoint a leader, no different than a coronation. So when we talk about a country, we're talking about a faith-based idea, a set of principles, ideas, laws, regulations, a flag, a population. Yes. But if it's not underwritten by some real values, and I would point to eternal values such as kindness, compassion, equality where possible, fairness, sharing, love, pretty basic high school, Mr. Men sort of after school special, simple values. If it ain't got those things, if it's just an excuse for a bunch of people to make loads of money while nosing life right up for the bottom 20%, then it's bullshit.
We produced not one, but 2 vaccines with record-breaking speed.
I like that, like vaccines has a sort of a time component. This is a record-breaking vaccine. One of the things I rather enjoy about Donald Trump, actually, is his ability to sort of swagger, boast and brag about sort of extraordinary details. I got the neatest, tiniest fingernails. I got the cutest little earlobes. No, it's not things that I thought were up for bragging about vaccines.
They said it couldn't be done, but we did it. They called it a medical miracle, and that's what they're calling it right now, a medical miracle.
Also, a lot of his rhetoric is children's rhetoric. They said it was a medical miracle. It's a medical miracle, and that's what they called it right now. It's a medical miracle. Like, if you envisage the things he's saying, it's a sort of, what is this world? It's like Homer Simpson's imagination, like chimpanzees on unicycles.
Another administration would have taken 3, 4, 5, maybe even up to 10 years to develop a vaccine.
What have you based that on? The old imagination files.
We did it in 9 months.
It was basically like a baby. I got pregnant with a vaccine, I gestated it, and I gave birth to a little baby vaccine. That's in 9 months. Joe Biden, if he was going to do a vaccine-ass baby, that would take him 20 years, like a baby elephant.
Our unwavering conviction has been that we are here to serve the noble, everyday citizens of America. Our allegiance is not to the special interests, corporations, or global entities. It's to our children, our citizens, and to our nation itself.
Now that's like a powerful narrative now. That's the globalization narrative that saw Trump elected, and which I think a lot of you, and I'd have to say myself too, agree with. There's been a problem of disempowerment at the local level. I wouldn't say necessarily a national level, because national is just a construct, but local level, I mean, like, how can you, if you think about your own actual life, how often are you doing what you want? Particularly now, it's not like you could get up and you live a life that's related to your survival, let alone your advancement. There are various abstract shackles applied to you through finance, obligation and debt and all these things. And I'm not saying that that's something that's particularly caused by Trump or remedied by Trump. But certainly I would say that those are the conditions that create the opportunity for Trump.
As president, my top priority, my constant concern, has always been the best interests of American workers and American families.
That should be true, isn't it? It's that same thing like when you're always watching politicians, usually when they're leaving office, by the way. The best you'll ever see a politician is when they're bloody booted out one way or another, whether it's Theresa May crying her eyes out, Margaret Thatcher crying her eyes out. In general, when politicians have had like the sort of strings of their puppetry cut off, they're like, oh, bloody hell. They're like when Neo wakes up in the Matrix and gets out of that little battery of sludge he's been a kip in, like, oh my God, sorry about all them lies I was telling you. It's meant to be about like children, and we're all going to die one day. What are we going to do? We've got to save the planet, surely, and we've got to be kind to each other. I mean, we'll never be perfect, but let's try our best. What about you? We've all got good ideas to contribute. Let's honour each other's heritage. Let's come together. You know, they all sort of sound like people like before they're bundled off into a capsule and buried forever, lest their truth should taint the agenda of the powerful.
I did not seek the path that would get the least criticism.
Well, that's certainly true. I've never seen anyone criticised like that ever before, really. Well, except maybe George Bush when that stuff was going down. I like that he says, I did not seek the path. I mean, we're getting into some serious Christian rhetoric. Furthermore, let's look at this frame, as well as the potent patriarch at its centre, backed by the solid oak door that remains consistent whoever comes in or out of it, flanked there by the stars and stripes, the possibility and a concentrated history of America, and there at the level of the lower chakras, the procreative sexual chakras and the survival chakras, there is the eagle, a rather fierce looking creature with a sort of mad Captain America shield clutching something in its fist, which could be a rolled up newspaper, get out of it, or more likely the Constitution. The semiotics of this situation point to power and legitimacy, and like all pageantry, it is to distract you from the truth that this is just a person that's no different from you or I, that we have projected power onto because of our inability to address the true nature of power, that it is within and that it is amorphous, ever-shifting and transitory, and any attempt to sort of ossify it and institutionalise it goes against the underlying chaos that could throw it off like an ocean wave at any moment.
I took on the tough battles, the hardest fights, the most difficult choices.
The creamiest milk, the widest bar, the goodness that's in Milky Bar.
Your needs were my first and last unyielding focus.
I feel like he's like breaking up with us. Your needs was always my unyielding focus. I'd cry my eyes out if someone said this to me at the end of a relationship. I wouldn't be able to take it. Although, like in this, he's not doing it. I like it when Donald Trump's much more on the fly, don't you? When he's marching up and down, getting people to hate on the media and just making wisecracks and that. This is like he's clearly reading this off a teleprompter. He's been real shook up by that capital C, doesn't he? It's like people, you have to rein it in a little bit now, mate. Otherwise, you're finished for the long term.
As the world's most powerful nation, America faces constant threats and challenges from abroad.
And me.
But the greatest danger we face is a loss of confidence in ourselves.
That is true in a way, like emotional and psychic threats are very real. But also, so things like climate change, inequality, fracturing of the social fabric. You don't want too much confidence if you're a maniac, is what I will say.
I want you to know that the movement we started is only just beginning. There's never been anything like it.
That's mental, isn't it? No president has ever said that before. Like, presidents normally see themselves as on a sort of a conveyor belt of power and that they're on their way out now. Like, I heard someone once say about with inhalations and exhalation. You inhale, you exhale. And on a global level, this is how life itself, you know, we come in, we live, we die. But Donald Trump, it's like he's sort of clinging on to the mouth of power. I'm not going nowhere, son.
As long as the American people hold in their hearts deep and devoted love of country, then there is nothing that this nation cannot achieve.
Why keep going like that for, though? He is sort of shrugging a little bit. There's a sort of, he keeps doing this. This is a new movement, I think, from Trump. It's often when he says about holding things from his heart, he seems to do a little twitch. I think that's the restrained energy from not being able to sort of march around the stage or do that weird dance. Do you remember that dance he did to YMCA that time? You know, this is a dude that's got that in his locker. I'd say he should have reprised some of that YMCA for his goodbye speech.
I go from this majestic place with a loyal and joyful heart, an optimistic spirit, and a supreme confidence that for our country and for our children, the best is yet to come. Thank you and farewell. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
He's not got that sort of conversational style that he typically has. It's much more grandiose, hyperbolic and rhetorical than we're used to from Trump, but then it is a very significant and particular moment that probably requires that symbolically it looks like legitimized power, because from now on, whatever else he does and faces is going to be without the office of the president, without the platform of Twitter, and I wouldn't put it past him, because I've done that before in the past, put things past Trump, thought Trump's capabilities couldn't reach it, or like the combined cultural forces that sort of are epitomized by Trump couldn't surmount difficulties, and they have done. But whatever Trump does in the future is going to be distinct from what he's done in the past, because, well, it's post all of this. But what's also true is that near 50% of the population that liked Trump, those of you that think that he speaks for you, those of you that see him as talking to truth to power and being outside of a system that doesn't care for you, doesn't care for your needs, and gives you a bunch of phony technocratic rhetoric instead of like the emotional punch in the face, home truth, hearty chat of Donald Trump. I know that you are still there, and it is your country. If there is such a thing as a country, it belongs to everyone equally, whether you're the wokest or wherever else on the spectrum, in all of the numerous directions a spectrum could possibly go in. So while we're saying goodbye to the figure of Trump and the presidency of Trump, we are not saying goodbye to the conditions that created him, neither the phenomena of Trump himself.